10 UK wrestlers WWE needs to sign for the UK Championship tournament. Number 10. Rampage Brown. The last time WWE put on the UK Championship tournament, the company brought in a lot of very talented flashy wrestlers who all had fairly similar sizes and styles, which is why many have been appearing on WWE's 205 live show. For those who had never seen any wrestling from the UK before, might think that is all the British scene has to offer, but it is far from the case. While the UK scene does boast some amazing technical and high-flying wrestlers, it also has some of the best heavyweights in the world. One of those is Rampage Brown, who is a veteran of the sport and is a traditional throwback heavyweight who doesn't do flashy over-the-top moves, but simply hits the power moves and hurts his opponents. Throwing Rampage into the tournament would provide something totally different and make it stand out as different from the last one, which is something WWE should be looking to do. Number 9. Jimmy Havoc. Jimmy Havoc is likely a name you will have heard of, as he is one of the biggest UK stars with his work for Progress Wrestling being well known. Havoc is an excellent wrestler and someone the company has looked at, with Havoc competing at WWE Access before, but his style is also one that doesn't fully conform with WWE's. Havoc is known for being the king of the deathmatch and loves to put his body on the line, with the vast majority of his matches ending with him being a bloody mess and his opponent being even worse, which doesn't fully fit in with WWE's PG environment. However, many people felt the same way about Dean Ambrose when he first signed, wondering how he would fit in WWE considering he was also known for having a hardcore style with CZW. With just a few tweaks, Havoc could make for a really interesting addition to WWE's UK division. Number 8. Joe Hendry. In terms of entertainment, you don't get much better than Joe Hendry, the local hero who's not only a professional wrestler but also an amateur wrestler too, recently representing Scotland in the Commonwealth Games. Hendry is a good hand in the ring and could put on a great match with anyone, but it really is his personality that puts him on a different level to many of his fellow Brits, with the Scottish wrestler being one of the most popular UK wrestlers. Fantastic on the microphone, it is with Joe Hendry's creative entrances that he has managed to make a huge name for himself. While some wrestlers have big pyro, others paint themselves, Hendry creates specific entrance songs for his opponents, using pop culture to mock whoever he will be facing, gripping the audience before the bell even rings. Number 7. El Ligero. If WWE does want to keep the same high-paced, hard-hitting, aerial style that the previous tournament had, then El Ligero would be a perfect person to bring in for the tournament, with the masked wrestler being known for his terrific wrestling ability. Few men work harder than El Ligero in wrestling, with the high-flying wrestler often working multiple shows in a day. He is someone you can almost guarantee to see on any UK show you watch, hence why he deserves this chance. However, that's where things might get a little complicated, because El Ligero, while actually being British, claims to be from Mexico. Even though we have seen some non-UK wrestlers compete for the title, this might be a stumbling block that stops El Ligero from being able to enter, which would be a huge shame. Number 6. Grado. WWE did a good job of bringing in a mix of British wrestlers last time, representing every country from the United Kingdom, and the same should be expected this time around. While WWE does have some good Scottish wrestlers, if it truly wants to represent Scotland, then Grado is someone that needs to be brought in. He might not have the WWE look, but he's one of the most popular wrestlers on the UK independent scene due to the fact his work tends to lead itself to comedy, yet he remains a top performer for every company he works for. Grado has worked on American shores before with TNA, but it's with Scottish promotion, Insane Championship Wrestling, where he has really made his name. And that is a company that WWE has links with, meaning a chance of seeing Grado could be quite high. Number 5. Doug Williams. Few men have done more for British wrestling than Doug Williams. One of the all-time greats, Williams is a huge name in the UK and a legend of the sport who's nearing the end of his in-ring career. With that in mind, you might question why he should be brought in for the tournament. Well, not everybody who's put on the show has to be signed to a deal with the company, and there's nothing wrong with having a one-off run with Williams as a nod of respect from the company to him. For someone who has been part of the UK wrestling scene during some of his darkest times as well as his brightest, it would be a well-deserved honor for him to be able to say he has worked for WWE in some capacity when it is all said and done. Number 4. Mark Haskins. Mark Haskins is one of Progress Wrestling's top stars, but is someone who has made a name for himself for countless promotions due to his fantastic work in the ring and his ability to connect with an audience, either as a lovable babyface or a heel. Haskins would certainly fit the mold that WWE seems to want to go for with its UK division in terms of who already works for the company, and given how many different promotions he works for around the independent scene, he could represent WWE very well because he works for places like Progress and ICW that have links with WWE and have given UK talent to the company before. It certainly puts Haskins as a likely candidate to be popping up this time around. Number 3. Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis is one of the biggest UK names to never work for WWE and would certainly add some star power to the tournament, which is never a bad thing. With many wrestling fans knowing him for his work with TNA, where he is a former World Heavyweight Champion, Aldis is the current NWA Champion, and if the company could work out a way to have him debut with that historic title, it could really add some prestige to the entire thing. Aldis has made it clear in interviews he would like a shot at working for WWE, and he certainly has the talent and experience to make an impact. Considering his wife Mickie James is currently under contract with the company, WWE has an easy connection to bring him in, and Aldis could make a brilliant UK champion. Given the amount of former TNA stars that now call WWE home, adding one more isn't going to hurt anybody. Number 2. Zack Sabre Jr. This is probably the most unlikely entry to actually happen on this list, but it's also the one that the WWE Universe will likely want to happen the most, and would certainly gain a monster reaction from the live crowd. If WWE really wants to make the UK Championship a top title in the company, but there is no better way to do that than by putting it on of the very best wrestlers in the world. Zack Sabre Jr. has flown the flag for British wrestling everywhere he has gone, and he is someone that the WWE is certainly keen on signing. The company brought him in for the original Cruiserweight Classic, but Zack turned down a full-time WWE contract, opting to keep pursuing Japan. Given that he's currently one of New Japan's top stars, this is something that probably won't happen this year, but eventually, the technical wizard will end up in the WWE. Number 1. Zack Gibson. If WWE wants not only to shake things up with a few new faces, but make a true impact, then Liverpool's number 1, Zack Gibson, would be a perfect choice. Not only to enter the tournament, but to actually be one to defeat Pete for the championship. Because fans have seen the Cruiserweight beat all of the existing UK superstars under WWE contract, having him lose to someone totally new would be a smart way to go, with the win putting over whoever he may be in a huge way. Gibson is one of the UK scene's very best, with 5-Star Wrestling being the latest promotion to center its show around him until it folded. In terms of natural heels, you don't get much better than Gibson, and he backs up everything he says inside the ring. A hard-hitting, smash-mouth UK champion is something that the WWE Universe is ready for. And if a UK show is going to take place, Gibson would be an excellent hand to have as part of the roster.